Okay, so anyway, we are getting ahead of the game, basically, of where we need to be. We still have a little bit of time left in the semester, and we're on chapter 14 of, I think, 16 today, so that's pretty good. I don't have the test graded yet. I had a ton of grading to do in other courses, and I'll grade y'all's this weekend, and we can talk about them on Tuesday. I'll let you know how I had any adjustments or whatever accordingly, if necessary on this one. Did y'all think it was a little easier than the first one? Okay, I think the consensus was that they thought it was a little easier. Some are disagreeing, but I think for the most part, people thought that this one was a little easier, and that was my goal, for it to be a smidge easier. I thought that it was, but anyway, if the grades are terrible, then I'll look at it, and I'm not gonna let it fail you in the class. Don't worry about that. You're fine. Anyway, today, well, first off, let me go and get the PowerPoint open, because I forgot to do that. And then we'll share the screen while I'm talking.
I think I had shared it in Google Doc, but I don't think you could view it. So I just sent it again on your email.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, I sent you another email, and I'm like, please send me something.
Yeah, I did it Tuesday. I don't know what happened.
Now, just as a reminder to you guys, make sure to use, I don't know how much y'all have been doing this, and some of you may have and some of you may have not, but between the lectures, the book, and these other materials that I put on Blackboard, the stuff is there, okay? If you're not using these end of the chapter reviews and questions and things to look for understanding, then you're not using everything that you have at your disposal, okay? So don't forget, we've got the study guides, and then we've got the PowerPoints. Don't forget to go ahead and use those study guides, because they help, and they'll help on the test, I promise. A lot of the questions that are on that extra material are the things that are tested on. So if you haven't been using that stuff, you've been missing out on a lot of the information that it makes you kind of dig for. So, all right, we got that PowerPoint opening. I can't do that. I'm not sure if the recording is going to work today or not, but that's okay. All right, it appears to be sharing what I wanted it to share. So, okay, chapter 14, we'll jump into it. This is a little bit of a longer chapter, a little more than some of them are. So, but it's not, I mean, a lot of this stuff, that managers are, having to watch out for dangers in the workplace and things like that. It's not like groundbreaking information. It's just things that we'll kind of talk about how in recreation therapy and as a manager, how you do these things. Not, I mean, you know that they're addressed and that they're covered, but if you're the one that's having to do it, how do we go about that? So this chapter is about managing risk in the workplace, ensuring safety for not just your clientele that you're serving, but for your staff as well, because risk management very much comes into play with the people that work with you and for you. You know, they don't want y'all getting hurt either. Security, you know, we know in today's world we have, you know, mass shootings and things and all sorts of threats going on. And so security in the workplace is something that is of note, bless you. And a little bit about legal aspects is also covered in this chapter. So we're talking about risk and safety and security. This PowerPoint is a little more in depth than some of the others too. I'll say this, so this is a good one to refer to. Managers are concerned for client safety and security and their worker well-being, just like I said previously. These concerns have resulted in alignment of risk management with quality efforts. So it basically ties together if you're having trouble with risk management, you're going to end up having trouble with the quality of service you're providing. Because if someone is at risk, or if people are getting hurt, staff are getting hurt and they're not able to come to work, things like that, then obviously your product that you're putting out is going to suffer from that as well. So they're very much aligned and tied together. So something that has happened because of this, managers are shifting their focus from identifying the causes of errors or injuries or damages after the fact to starting to provide these quality services in a safe, secure environment up front, which is what should be done anyway, okay? But basically what's happening is just a more proactive approach, and the managers are starting to try to cut things off before they happen rather than react to, okay, we had somebody get hurt on the water slide last week. You know, what did we do wrong? Rather than doing that, they're researching up front to see what's the safest way to do this to keep people from getting hurt. Common sense, I would think, but that's you know, they've really moved away from trying to be reactive and being proactive when it comes to this stuff. So risk management, basically what is risk management? It is determining what risks, safety and security issues are present that face your unit, your group that you're working with, figuring out the procedures to handle these risks and safety and security issues. What are your procedures? And implementing decisions regarding that. A lot of facilities have risk management departments, and actually most do if they're of any size at all. Even if there is a risk management department, you will have to, in each department will talk with them about, you know, where are your needs for risk management strategies. You still have to deal with your day-to-day risk management issues. That department can't handle every single thing from every single person, you know, every department. They can oversee, they can guide, they can do trainings and things like that, but they can't, you know, oversee every day-to-day thing that's going on. So some examples of risks, safety and security issues, things like that they have here. Natural conditions, staff errors of omission or commission, where they're either not doing something that they should be doing, or they're doing something that they shouldn't be doing. Lawsuits, that is for your facility, that's a sort of a risk, you know, that can shut you down. So obviously it's a risk. Terrorism, violence, caregiver emergencies, those are all things. What are some things right now that we have to relate, that we can relate to this as far as risk management? There you go, COVID. You know, when you're doing an internship right now, you have to sign a COVID waiver form. That's just, and we'll talk a little bit more about like that type of form in a minute too. But that's kind of, I think that would fit under the natural conditions, even though I'm not sure it's a natural condition, to be honest. Basically, those are the things that you have to put into a risk management plan. You know, what is our plan moving forward? Just like the university, we had to have a strategy for, you know, that's why these seats have okay to sit here on them. And the desks are fewer in this classroom because we had to make a risk management strategy to best serve you guys as well as we can while keeping you safe and protecting ourselves from lawsuits and things like that. I say ourselves, not me, the people in a far higher pay grade than me. But still, you have to develop procedures that are going to avoid and reduce potential harm or loss and create safe, secure care and work settings. You want to make sure, risk management is basically making sure that you're cutting down any opportunities for someone to be harmed while under your care or while working for you. And you want them to feel safe, be safe, and not have situations that you can avoid where someone can be hurt, feel like someone has been negligent, things like that. We'll talk a little bit more about that coming up also. So managerial tasks, what we have to do as managers when we're talking about risk management, you have to identify, analyze, evaluate your risk, threats, and concerns. You're looking at, that's based on where can you get that information that you might be identifying and analyzing. Some of it is just going to be visual. You're going to see, you know, these are some things that we got. That slide looks a little dangerous, or that, you know, what else do you think could help you identify things? Maybe like accident reports from your facility that you could go back and look for trends. That would be one thing. Patron complaints, maybe. Your own staff needs to come to you every time that they see something that's unsafe, and that's something that as a manager you need to open that up for your people to know that you need that dialogue. You know, if you see something that's unsafe, come to me. We'll take care of it. We need to cut this off before something happens. That's basically what it comes down to. Another task is that we have to prepare, implement, monitor, and evaluate a risk management plan. Now, a lot of times, that's something that you would use to work with your particular department. You probably would share that with the risk management specialist at your facility if you have one of those where you work. A good thing when you're going to prepare something of this nature, is if possible, use a committee or a group to work together. You could get more heads on it than just one. You get more ideas. You find, I've found that committees can be a really good thing when you're trying to put something together, like a document, rules such as this. You also have to monitor adherence to standards and applicable laws and regulations. So your job as a manager, you are making sure that what your people are doing, what your department is providing, is adhering to the standards of your facility, adhering to the standards of ATRA. You know, we talked about ethical standards and things in our other 388, 372. We talked about those standards of care. If you are adhering to those things, then that's going to keep you out of a lot of risk management issues in and of itself. You don't want to, you know, different states, different cities. Okay, right now, for example, back to the COVID deal, you're talking about monitoring adherence to standards and laws and regulations. You know, Tate Reeves came out and took away the mask mandate, and nothing in my life has changed whatsoever. Everywhere I go still has a door sign saying must have a mask to enter. You know, we're still wearing masks. I'm not, because I don't want to. No, I'm not, because I'm far enough away and I'm doing a video, so you can't really, it's hard to do that way. That's the only reason that I'm not. I could probably get in trouble if the right person walked by this door right now, but I'll take that hit if I have to. That's a good example of, you know, if your people are supposed to be wearing masks while dealing with your consumers, part of your risk management strategy is to make sure that they're doing that. You know, if people are supposed to be wearing masks when they come to your facility, part of your job is to make sure that they have those on. If they don't, that you're able to, you know, it may be that you provide them with a mask, you know, something along that line. Whatever you have to do to mitigate your risk management stuff. Ensure documentation and reporting of results. You want to show whether your risk management strategies are working or not, is what that comes down to. And if you document what's going on every time there's an injury, something that could have been preventable, then sometimes you don't want to put it down because you feel like it's going to look bad on you. But say you leave and somebody new comes in, you're helping them a great deal by leaving them a little trail of something that they might can watch out for. And if you can turn it into a positive, because nobody expects everyone to be perfect every day, okay? The highest level, I mean, you have some CEOs and all that expect the most out of everybody, and they're very hard on everyone. And, you know, but for the most part, they understand that there are going to be errors. And if you document what happened, and then you give a good documentation of this is what we're doing to remedy this, this is how this is not going to happen again, then you've done your job with risk management. You have looked to see why it happened, and giving a plan of correction is what people are looking for. And if you put that in your documentation is no longer a negative, it becomes a positive. You see what I'm saying with that? So the most important thing that I see on here is ensure ongoing training and education. The best thing you can do to ensure that, you know, risk management information is getting out there is by providing, you know, in-service trainings, ongoing training opportunities, and education that have to do with bringing down risk levels with what you're doing. You know, this is how we're doing it now. This is how we can do it safer. You know, these are the changes that we're going to do. So ongoing training and education is a big part of, you know, your role as a manager to provide that to your staff to keep this at bay. So risk and safety management program. What they do, what it does, it identifies loss to the facility because of mistake, basically. A vehicle wreck that costs your facility money to make repairs on the vehicle is included in your whole risk management plan. You know, what caused the wreck? What could we do different to keep this from happening? You look to see whose fault it was. Was it your driver's fault? Was it someone else's fault? Are we liable? Do we have to, you know, you keep up with how many, every year when I worked at NMRC, they would pull us together, everyone who drove for the facility, and we'd have a meeting and they would go through how many accidents we had, you know, and some of it was almost funny. Like one time I was with a guy that we went to pick up a client at a doctor's office, and we pulled up to the front of the place, and I said, he was coming up and they had the awning, and I said, man, you're not gonna make it under that awning. He said, well, it says, you know, 11 feet, whatever. This little bus isn't any taller than that. Next thing I knew, there was pieces of the awning falling down on the thing, and then I was like, man, you got to back up. He started trying to back up, and more was falling. So then he started trying to go, basically had to give them a whole new awning. Not any damage to our old hoopty van that we were in, but the awning was destroyed, and it was embarrassing, and we had to go back. We had to get drug tested. Always fun. All that whole process, and that was all part of the risk management thing, because from there it's like, what can we do to train staff to keep these idiots from running into any more awnings in the future? So there was documentation done. But when we would have our meetings every year, we'd talk about how many accidents that we had, how many were NMRC drivers' faults, how many were with other drivers, how many were just like, just the driver backing into a tree or something. No other people were involved. They gave all the stats and things like that, and then talked about the total monetary loss for the year. And then they looked at the trends on like what sort of accidents were happening in regards to driving, and then would try to do in-service training to keep those from happening again. So it's a big, you know, I would consider that education. We would sit in there and they would go through specific, as they were going down the list of accidents, people would be snickering, sitting out there, because they would know, oh, that's the one that so-and-so did when he backed into the tree for no reason, you know, like, because you hear about these things happening. But the whole point of that is to show that it does, you know, you're identifying loss in that case. You're seeing how much these wrecks and things cost your facility. So obviously, you need to cut down. You don't want the people in your department to be the ones out wrecking everywhere. That's for sure. Because then they're going to ask you, hey, what's wrong with your people? So as a manager, you have to kind of make sure that they take things seriously. So the risk and safety management program is going to implement policies, procedures, standards that guide and set quality. Again, good time to maybe have a committee to put that together. You have to do an evaluation of the frequency or probability and severity of incidents. That's what I just told you about when we went over the yearly accidents on NMRC campus, drivers, vehicles, etc. We talked about how much each incident cost, one at a time. You know, it was kind of like they were preaching to us, you know, to try to make you do better the next year. And if we had a year where there was hardly anything, they bragged, as they should, because there's a lot of drivers. Something else that you have to look at is the frequency, probability, severity of incidents. And then here at the bottom, there's some different responses that are out there to control concerns, and we're going to talk about these in a couple slides. Now, these are the type things that they'll talk about on, you know, that we have on tests. If you look at this slide, you clearly are going to want to know avoidance, reduction, retention, and transfer. What these are, we'll talk more about them in a minute. So you need to identify issues. What are some of the issues that are out there? We've got environmental hazards, you know, falling objects, slippery surfaces. We talked about, you know, in ES 394, we talk about working with special populations and getting them out to walk or something. But, you know, do we want a Parkinson's patient who's starting to have trouble with gait going on a mountain hike? No, because they've got balance issues and trouble with their gait. Something else that was brought up with almost everything is we need to have, like if there's a workout area, you need to make sure that the floor is clear and clean of clutter where people aren't tripping. That's a risk management issue. When you see a wet floor little yellow placard out here when somebody's just got through cleaning up water or mopped the floor, that's risk management. They're trying to keep people's feet from going over their head out there. So that there's a reason for those things. And there's somebody who's going to have to answer for that and to that if somebody does fall, you know. Infrastructure hazards, things that have moving parts, uneven surfaces. These are places where there is inherent risk where people can fall, where people could get injured. As far as other issues, professional interaction, documentation error. Can anybody think of anything off the top of your head that might fit into this? That could be considered risk.
Documenting like our own medication.
Absolutely, that's the one that I was going to say. Can you imagine? Okay, in recreation therapy, years ago, when I was at NMRC again, we used to take them on camping trips, and when we did that, they would send us. We didn't have to have a nurse with us at that time to do our trips. So since I was in charge of the trip as a recreation therapist, they would give me a bag of their meds. And it had, they get this medication at 8 a.m. and all this stuff. If there was a mislabel on that medication, big deal. You know, if I'm giving somebody antipsychotic medication that doesn't need it and they have an adverse reaction, that's a big risk management issue. As recreation therapists, we also need to know things like medication. What medication are our people on? What side effects do they have? That's going to play into the things that we do with them. Some medications make you very sensitive to the sun. Some medications make you prone to become dehydrated. Those are things we need to know if we're doing activities with our people. And if those things aren't documented, or if the wrong name is written by that, that's a problem. You know, that's a issue that can happen. Intervention during API. Failure to identify need through assessment and proper supervision. This should not be happening, obviously, and that's, you know, if you're running a recreation therapy department properly, the assessment, one of the whole reasons that we're doing the assessment is to find out strengths, weaknesses / needs. So shouldn't be happening, but it can. It's our charge as a manager to make sure that needs are being addressed, that they're being found, that they're being documented, and that our clients, when the intervention is going on, are being properly supervised, either by ourselves or our staff. So proper supervision is key. We also have to look at things like crisis management, significant weather issues. You know, everybody has a plan for tornadoes. You know, schools have tornado drills. It's a sad thing. My kids' school had, I think it was 2 days ago, had a lockdown drill. We didn't used to have to have lockdown drills. It's sad that we have to have lockdown drills, but now we do, because the world's nuts. And so you have to have, that would be considered crisis to me, absolutely. What if there's violence in the workplace? What are the steps? There needs to, you know, I've talked before about policy and procedure manuals, P&P manuals. These are the type things that need to be in there. You know, what do you do in the case of violence in the workplace? Who do you call? What is the first step? You know, do you call the law? Do you call security on campus? Do you make an announcement over the intercom? You know, there's a lot of different things that you could do, but you need to know and have it posted and out there and train your staff to know what to do in the case of violence, what to do in the case of significant weather, what to do if, you know, you work in a facility that deals with caustic or toxic chemicals, what to do if you have a spill. Do you evacuate the area? You know, how do you clean it up? What sort of protective equipment do you need to wear when you're dealing with it? You know, do you have that present? That's all part of risk management. Do you have, you know, ventilator masks that people can use if they spill muriatic acid in the pool, you know, around the pool, and it makes this fog that I can vouch for is very bad. It will choke you out. So you have to have this stuff in place, and you have to have it in a document that's trackable, traceable, and easy to teach to your people. So once you identify your issues, you have to evaluate your issues. When you have an incident, again, like I said, like say a wreck of a vehicle, what kind of financial losses did you have at the facility? What sort of human damage did you have? You know, you're going to have financial losses in the form of repairing the vehicle if it's a wreck, if an employee is injured or somebody else is injured. You know, you're going to have costs there as well. So you have to look at financial loss from different directions. Also, you could be sued if your person is shown to be in the wrong. And we're in a much more sue-happy society these days too than it used to be. You know, back when I was growing up, we just used to have a shootout to get over things. Okay, I'm not quite that old, but we didn't sue nearly as much, I'll say that. Suing is a big thing in life now, and that's part of risk management as well. You know, what are we doing to keep ourselves from being sued? That's a big part of the risk management process. If someone is hurt in our care, what is the potential for the degree of injury? You know, is somebody likely to be hurt doing activities at our facility? If so, we need to stop that. What's the potential frequency or extent or probability of the occurrence or reportable incident? So you're just looking at, it depends on your facility. Where would be a place where you would say there was a pretty good chance of there being incidents or reports where people did have safety issues? Psych hospitals, for sure. If you think about recreational settings, yeah, prisons for sure, absolutely. Think of places in the community now. Where are some places where you could see people? Yes, because that's very possible for injuries in there. You know, climbing walls and things. It's water parks. Water parks are, I mean, there's water all over the ground. There's concrete. There's people slipping. There's a lot, huh?
The stairs at water park that we want to slide.
Oh, they're the worst. Yeah. That's a place that just jumps to my mind when I think here. They better, you better be, you can believe that they have a risk management strategy in place, or they need to be working on fixing that, because there's a lot of places you could get hurt there. So they need to examine what's the potential frequency of something happening that's going to fall under risk management, something we could have avoided. What's the degree of harm or severity? Okay, to me, I'll jump back to aquatics because that's another background of mine. When I was running the city pool here in town, you know, there were times we'd have 150 people in that pool at one time. And it looked like when you throw a piece of meat in with the piranhas, you know, and the water is like churning. That's basically what the pool looked like. Was it easy to lifeguard at that point? No. Did I trust my guards? Yes. Was I still out walking around the deck and like looking in the water the whole time because I was scared to death somebody was going to drown? Absolutely. Because at the bottom of this slide right here, the degree of harm / severity was 100%. If, you know, death. That's a big risk management issue there. And we had to have a very good risk management plan for the city pool. I put in cameras to try to help with that. We did in-service regularly to talk about. Every so often I would have my staff, we would practice doing backboarding. Like if someone dove and hit their head on the bottom, we would just practice backboarding periodically because I wanted us to be prepared and have the best outcome if something was to happen. What did we do if it thundered? What did we do if it was just raining? If it starts raining so hard that you cannot see the bottom of the pool, we pull everybody out. If it was just rain, they could swim. They're wet anyway. If we hear thunder or lightning, we're out of the pool for 30 minutes. Every time it thunders or lightnings again, the time starts over at 30 minutes. That was our risk management, part of our risk management that we had in place there. We had, you know, if there was a drowning incident, We had protocol that we went through. That's risk management. But we had to evaluate. I didn't have to do much evaluation in that position to decide what the possible degree of harm or severity could be there. Now, we also had a lot of risk management stuff going on where people were getting stung by bees. That's not really on us so much. People were stubbing their toes on the concrete. We gave out a ton of Band-Aids on camp days. Kids, some of them, I don't know how they had blood in their body by the end of the summer because they'd get cut every time. And we had this one kid that would have a nosebleed every time he came to the pool, which was super not cool. I'm like, do that somewhere else, but try to plan that before you come to the pool, if you don't mind. He didn't listen, but still. So these are these risk strategies that were back a few slides ago that were listed that I said are the type things that stand out to me as things like we've been testing on. Some things that you choose as a manager, as a leader of a facility. What do we do to mitigate the chance of risk, damage, someone getting hurt, us losing money? Avoidance is one thing that you can do, and that's just simply not offering an experience that you deem to be too much of a risk for there to be loss, for somebody to get hurt, for them to sue you, for there to be damages, whatever it may be. Avoidance is just where you don't offer it. And I think of, adventure type things when I think of that. In MRC, there was a little hill right outside of my pool, and I had this grand idea that, you know what, they come to the pool all the time. Let's do something different for aquatics for a little while. And I bought this big black sheet of whole rolls and rolls of this black Fist Queen, and I rolled it out on the ground. There was a little hill coming down behind, and I got some soap, and we had a big giant slip and slide down the hill, and that's what we did with the clients at NMRC, and they loved it. And it was the biggest hit ever, and that was the best idea, and that was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then one day, 2 clients broke their arm. And then I was the worst thing since sliced bread. Needless to say, it was then determined through risk management mitigation that was probably not the best activity for us to be doing, although most of them could do it and have the best time ever. The risk was not worth the reward to me. I didn't want them breaking their arms either, but the people above me sure didn't. I'm bringing in nursing, and then there's cost for care and all this stuff. By trying to think outside the box in a recreational setting, I'm like, okay, let's think of something fun we can do. And it was fun, and they loved it. But when you have 2 arms broken in one day because they don't realize that they need to get on down, and they're trying to just walk on the plastic and falling, you have to just cut that. So it became a case of avoidance for us in that situation. Another case of risk strategy is called transfer. And what that is basically, that's like a COVID waiver that you sign when you're doing you're handing over the responsibility, or, we are not responsible for, okay, really scary haunted houses. Who likes them? Are there any good ones anywhere around here right now coming up? Anyway, a lot of those, and part of it is just to play into the whole game, but they do things like make you sign a waiver before you go in. You're not going to hold us responsible for anything that happens while you're here. And that's just to kind of get your heart rate up a little bit mostly. Now, some people may start trying to run in the pitch black dark and run into a tree, and they don't want to have to pay for your broken nose, but it's mostly just to get you keyed up. But they do get you to sign this, hold harmless clause is basically what it would be. It's saying, we're offering this service, this activity. We'd love for you to participate. However, if you're going to participate, you need to sign right here and say, I'm not going to hold you responsible for anything that happens to me while I'm here. That's one way to get, that's a risk management strategy to take away the risk from yourself. You've got somebody's signature saying, I am not going to hold you responsible. So that's all you need. Reduction is another one where you reduce the frequency and severity of issues that are tied into loss, injury, things like that, by doing things like that are listed here. Inspecting your areas regularly, that's important. Hiring competent staff, also important. Monitor conformity to performance standards, making sure that people are doing things the way that they should be. If you're running a water park, sorry, I keep going back to water parks, and that's not really our thing, but it's a good thing when I think of risk management. It's a very risk management sort of thing. Okay, monitoring conformity to performance standards. If you are, if you're over that facility, you have rules. Lonnie talked about how these steps going up to the slides are slick and dangerous, and a lot of times the steps are too close together and people are falling over each other. But when you get to the top, what happens? You have a person up there that is basically saying, you can't go down with that hat on. You got to leave your sunglasses here, whatever, things like that. But then they stand there and they've got a walkie-talkie or something, or they can see, and they send people out at a very, consistent time frame. They can send the next one when the other one, when they see them come around the third bend, they can send this one, basically. What if that person just stops looking, it's just like, all right, let's go. And they're all coming down the bottom and landing on each other. I mean, they wouldn't be, your job as a manager would be to address the fact that they're not conforming to performance standards. They have a simple job. Send them out when they see them. Once they pass the third curve, you can send the next one. Don't send them down with loose sunglasses on. Whatever the rules are, it's very simple. But it's your job to make sure that they're adhering to those simple rules that are keeping the patron safe. Retention is another one. When you have something that's being provided that is dangerous. Okay, something else that comes to mind, therapeutic riding, hippotherapy. All of the horses that are used for this sort of work in recreation therapy are well trained. They are, tame as they can be. They've had tons of hours of work done with them to prepare them to do hippotherapy and work with clients that aren't aware of triggers for them and things. They're super safe. However, there's still 1,500-pound animals that could get stung by a bee at any point. Or somebody could have their phone turned up super high and have it ring right when their head's close to where the phone is in their pocket and make them jump. You have to know that you're working with an unpredictable large animal that's, although predictable most of the time, can be a source of risk for your staff, for the people that are on the horses. So what you would do in that situation, if you say you're not going to do avoidance, you feel that hippotherapy, therapeutic riding is very, very important thing to offer to your clients. And I think it's a great thing, by the way. you're not going to do the top one. You're not just going to say, hey, we had 2 people get hurt last year, let's just cut therapeutic riding. What you can do is continue to offer the service, make sure that you have insurance, you know, self-insure, and get professional liability insurance to help cover situations that come into play. Also, it may be a situation where you may have people sign a hold harmless clause, you know, a waiver, something like that, or the family members if the patients can't sign for themselves. Just my thoughts on that. I think that's a good example of that one. All right, you also have to implement plans dealing with risk management, and you have to report on those plans. And something that's important here that I really liked on this slide is everyone is a safety officer. So that's key to share with your staff and say, all right, guys, if y'all see anything that's unsafe, if you see anything, you know, anything that looks like someone might be able to fall, anything dangerous, if we have a light that's not as bright as it should be, you need to let us know where we can get that taken care of. Things like that. Open those lines of communication and praise your people for telling you when they found something that's not safe. Don't, you know, when they come to you and say, hey, the light in the back corner of that bathroom is dim again, I think it's going out. Instead of being like, man, we just changed that thing. I'll see if I can get somebody up here to do it. You know, be like, thank you for letting me know. I appreciate that. I sure don't want anybody getting hurt back there. And then they'll feel more likely to come back to you and tell you next time. If they come to you with an issue, a safety issue, and you act like you're ticked off about it, are they going to be as likely to want to come and tell you something else, or are they just going to be like, somebody else can tell them? I feel like I got fussed at because I told him my light was out. You know, keep that line of communication open, and, you know, you want them to do that. Let them know that. Managers and staff are going to continually review practices that you're actively doing. You're going to review the documents that you have and look at any revisions that may need to be done. Are there things in our safety protocol that we can improve upon to help keep us safe, to help keep our patrons safe? If so, what can we change? And have an open dialogue, because as a manager, a lot of times you have to trust your frontline workers to tell you, because they're the ones that are right in the middle of it, perhaps more than you would be. They may see some dangers that you would never even think of. So you've got to talk to your workers. Documentation of the practices, that's reported to your agency risk and safety officers if your agency has that. Believe me, if your agency has a risk and safety officer or a risk management department, they'll be coming to you asking you for all this stuff if they're doing what they should do. You know, it's a good thing. They can be a pain in the butt, but they keep everyone safe and covered is their whole goal. A big thing that I think of when I look at this slide and when I was looking over this part, as far as, you know, I like the middle one, where you continually review your practices and documents and revise strategies as needed. You need to do something else that needs to happen is do routine safety checks at your facility. You know, say you have a ropes course installed at a facility where you work. How often do you need to check the ropes? Before every time somebody gets on those things, especially if it's like a high ropes course. You need to be checking that stuff. I mean, vehicles. What should you do before you go on a trip? Yeah, check your oil. Make sure that the tires are good. Make sure there's no gauges on. Look underneath it. Make sure there's not a person under there. I mean, there's a list of things that at the center we did that. That was part of our pre-trip checklist that we had. Man, you never knew somebody might try to hide under a vehicle. It sounds crazy, but can you imagine taking off driving and feeling that bump, bump? That would be a pretty big risk management issue you'd have on your hands there. But look for leaking fluids, things like that. Continuous safety checks are kind of a key. You can assign different people to do safety checks. What I would advise is having like forms that are actually like checklists. Check this, and as they're checking, make sure that they're checking off the list, and they sign their name saying they did it. I'm not one that just wants to put blame on somebody or whatever, but it's one of those things where as a manager, if you've got a staff that says, I checked this, and it's apparent that this has been an ongoing issue, something that's been breaking down for a while, what needs to happen with that staff? Some sort of discipline, a chat in person to decide, where you need to go from there. Another good thing to do when you're doing these routine safety checks that we're talking about is to have different, not have the same person checking the same thing all the time. Let it be rotating where different people, you're getting new eyes on your different things that you're having checked, because somebody may notice something that somebody else didn't. Make sense on that? I mean, I notice things that some people don't. My dad, if he walked in here, he'd see that little hole in the ceiling right there, right off. He was a builder all his life, and he's done, when you're moving into a house, what do they have to do first? Inspections.
Yeah.
Inspections. He's like, so he'd be big on, he'd probably be in here looking to see. People look at different things different ways. When he comes over to my house, I'm always like, don't be looking at my wall. Anyway, spread the wealth between your people. Let them, when you have things that are, if you're looking at the same things every day, you think it would be pretty easy to just start going, check, 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 sign. Yeah, I did it. It was fine 2 days ago. Surely it's still fine today. Easy for your people not to stress too hard. So it's good to get new blood working on your things every time. Let's, this far enough for today. We're doing, like I said, we're doing fine on time. Next class, we'll talk a little bit about the, don't quite walk out yet. Next class, we'll finish this chapter. We'll talk a little bit about the tests. And let me talk for just a minute about the video thing that we were talking about doing. Just try to think outside the box. I've had a couple questions about, what should I do? I don't really know where to start. Look up adaptive devices. Look up adaptive recreation. Watch videos of Special Olympics and some things that they're doing. It doesn't have to be, I'll even let you go with something that would help someone in the home or their everyday activities. But I would just research adaptive devices. If you find an adaptive device that someone's using, think about how it could be used or tweaked to work with a different population. You know, it's wide open. Just show me that you put a little thought into it. I'm not looking to shred this stuff. I just want, like I say, this was added to try to help y'all, and because I wanted a couple of y'all to kind of step out of your comfort zone a little bit and do a video, because in recreation therapy, you have to talk to people. You have to do that. So I want to see a couple people do this that I know it's not their favorite thing in the world. So any questions on that in particular?
So do you actually want us to like build the device or just kind of slide it?
If you don't build it, you need to have something to show me we need to understand what you're talking about.
So would like a voiceover, like PowerPoint be better, or
I do like
just a video of us explaining and then like maybe put up a slide?
I'd like to see, I mean, you can do a mixture, however you want to do it.
Does it matter how?
I want to see you,
Yeah.
not just the PowerPoint. I do want to see y'all, especially show me how it works. If you have something in hand that you can actually show me an adaptation, show me that. Don't worry, don't stress too hard about doing the right thing. Just be able to justify what you chose as being adaptive or a change that's going to be beneficial recreationally for the people.
What about the link? Is that on there?
I don't remember whether I put that or not. I think 5 minutes is about how long I would like it to be. I will check that afterwards. Quit making faces at me, boy. I'm gonna, that's kind of long, but what I want to do before we finish class, I want to watch each other's videos and talk about them. Maybe I'll make them 3 minutes. Maybe I'll go 4.
Well, you'll have to think like, we see each other every day. It's not like it's an online class where we.
I know. Y'all are kind of a little family. I know, okay, I'll think about it and I'll add it on the assignment today. Okay? I'll see y'all Tuesday. I'll have test grades by then. We'll talk about that, finish this chapter, and move into the next stuff.